how do we stop thinking without trying to stop thinking? How do we empty the mind without escapism and running away from our thoughts? We need to learn how to rest the mind. Instead of trying to concentrate, trying to focus, to hold our attention on something, we need to practice the skill of listening. And to listen, we need to let go. Also, to let go, we need to listen. It's this sort of yin and yang balance that needs to take place in order to step onto the path of authentic transformation, you could say. Not just trying to contrive a result or strive with obsession towards the end goal, the result of some sort of method or technique, but how to create a better relationship between your mind and your body, and how to discover this deeper wisdom that underlies our ego, our sense of self. Listening, just like when we listen to someone else speak, if you're listening to me speak right now, ideally we are letting go of what we think the other person is saying or what we're going to say in response, or really ideally to learn to take in the information, to not just hear but to listen. We're letting go of our preconceived notions and biases, and we're really taking it in. Like this idea of beginner's mind, emptying the cup, so to speak, so that we can take in fully what is being said, so that we can become receptive. To become receptive, we need to become empty of those things, because we want to take something on board. We cannot be full of our own ideas, our own conceptions about what that other person's saying or what is being taught or given to us, you could say. When we listen, the mind becomes more still, more silent, more open. In this state of receptivity, there is this opening, this welcoming. This quality of yin is touched upon. Like when I'm listening out into the space around me where I am, there's this sense of spaciousness in my being that arises, or that is uncovered, you could say, or noticed, as I listen to the silence. Within the silence, there is sound, and the sound arises and falls away within this silence, just like every object is existing within space. There's this spacious field of existence, and then there's objects within that space, and even within those objects, there is space. So within my practice, I've learned a lot about how to listen and how to perceive or recognize and cultivate spaciousness and openness. And it's quite a profound thing. If I begin to listen to that silence, my mind becomes more quiet. Because my attention is on something, resting within this space, that is the quality that begins to take up my mind. The more I rest my mind into just listening, just noticing, my mind becomes like that which it is resting upon or within. There's this interesting phenomenon of somatic empathy when people are really sensitive or empathic, and they, we've all had experiences of picking up on the vibe of a person or a place, and the nervous system reads the environment quite readily. We walk into a room full of angry people, we become tense, tight, angry ourselves maybe. Don't mind me brushing away the mosquitoes. My own little bit of tension or contraction that I'm playing around with releasing here. But we can sense that without thoughts, without words, without imagining. We might layer imagination on top of those things and think things, and it brings stuff up within us. But if we could really soften into that experience, we'd simply recognize it for what it is and release that contraction and maybe go the other way, right? Or if we step into a room full of amazing, happy, comfortable people, we become more upright, more uplifted, more spacious, more warm feeling, and we have a good time. What the attention rests upon, the mind reflects. And the quality of the mind is reflected within the body. Our nerves respond, our fascia responds. Right? So when the mind is gripping and holding, the nerves grip and hold. If the mind has been habitually holding and clinging to many, many built-up layers that we've acquired throughout our life, then the nervous system is habitually in many areas related to that, gripping and holding. When the mind grips and hold, the nerves grip and hold, the fascia becomes bound up. And if it's habitually bound up from the mind, habitually coming back to this closing, the attention resting upon with the sense of story in the mind of reinforcing that habit of contraction, then the nerves are bound up and tightened, the fascia binds up and tightens, and it basically calcifies. These things contract so hard it feels like we turn to stone. Sometimes it turns into this armoring, this guarding, but really at the core, if we soften and let go and listen inwards and surrender to this process of release, we begin to find this insight into the nature of awareness itself, that there's this constant push and pull. In every moment, there is the choice, really, but the recognition that we are either opening or closing. And we often stop ourselves from letting go and opening up. We might have a little bit of a fear around it, and we jump back into the story. We jump back into our habit of feeling safer when we're contracted and closed off from life. But is this healthy? No. Is it a good habit for our mind to constantly be holding tightly to everything we've ever experienced, all the past, trauma and all the potential trauma in our future? Is this good for the nerves to always be bound up and tightened? Is it good for the fascia to not be able to hydrate properly and stretch and open and become elastic and free and able to conduct life force like a finely tuned string of a guitar or the skin of a drum? These are analogies used within Tai Chi, the internal arts, certain forms of meditation and yoga and spiritual practice, because in order to achieve meditative states, we need to, in a way, train the mind, allow the energetics of the body to become coherent, harmonious. And this is how we do it. There is this harmony, this coherence developed through listening and releasing. And we need to train this mechanism of release in the body. We need to find these tight fists that are bound up and soften them, let them go. At the surface layer, we have our, external musculature, and we can learn how to let that go. The deeper layer, our fascia, even when I've let go of that level, I'm relaxed, but I could release more. Where my fascia starts to stretch and expand and extend, because it's as if my bones are sliding apart from each other within the body. Because not only are the muscles relaxing the external tension, but at a deeper layer, the mind is releasing, and there's like a substance to attention itself, which begins to be released, and it soaks the body, it floods the body, it saturates the body. It nourishes the energetics of our being through this deep listening, this deep attentiveness soaks in and changes the quality. The nerves, met with that softening, that opening, they let go, they unbind. Therefore, the fascia unbinds. Therefore, there is, with this emptying of listening, there is this filling with release, this opening through letting go. The mind becomes spacious, the attention dissolves inwards and fills us from within. There's this deep and profound opening from the inside out. So the body becomes increasingly perceived as spacious, full of life. And you'll see that my arms naturally are moving outwards in this way, because as the fascia releases, it's like there's this living suspension within me. This extension, this opening, this expansion within the tissues as a result of this quality of release. And this is the key to doing things like meditating in a neutral posture and letting yourself be completely unfazed by the arising and falling away of phenomena. Something, a thought could arise, the very seed of a thought comes up in the spacious awareness, and the knowing quality, the awareness, the attention itself recognizes this seed of a thought and simply doesn't engage, because this process of release is so enjoyable, because openness and spaciousness and freedom and the peace, the contentment, the joy that arises from this, the bliss that arises from this is so thoroughly enjoyable that we simply absorb into the body in our training, and we begin to be able to turn the light around, turn the light of our awareness around at the mind itself, and allow the mind to just recognize itself as inherently spacious and simply exist. Continually transforming everything the awareness touches. And this interaction between these two sides of the same coin, of the mind and the body, reflects upon the energetics, the chi, the prana, you could say, reflects upon the quality of our breath. And we can do practices where we work with the breath and work with the elements and work with yoga postures and do tai chi and all of these things. But all of these things are types of training that facilitate release at deeper and deeper levels to organize and make coherent this relationship of body and chi or prana, breath and mind. So that all of these things are facilitating deeper listening, deeper release, going deeper into the core of our being, the true nature of who we are, beneath all of these acquired layers, these distortions and contractions and held tensions within the body, within the mind. And thoughts disappear naturally on their own. Emotions just disperse and evaporate and fade away. And then some might arise, and then we recognize them. If they're useful, we make use of them. If we need to make changes, we make changes. If we need to fix things, we fix things. But there's no habit of contraction and holding around it. There's simply recognition, this knowing quality of this and that, and there's no more attachment and clinging in relation to it, which is a refreshing thing entirely.